Sam Ehlinger and Texas football take on Rice in Houston at NRG Stadium in Week 3. Soccer struggles early on in the season, and Mexico and Argentina face off in San Antonio. All this and more coming up on College Press Box. Good evening and welcome to College Press Box. Thank you for joining us on your Monday evening. I'm your host, Madison Hager, joined alongside Jake Herman. We have a packed show for you tonight. Let's start out with Texas football against Rice.
Texas football wrapped up their non-conference schedule on Saturday in their matchup against Rice in Houston. How did they respond after last week's hard-fought loss? Well, let's check out the highlights. Texas got off to a fast start in this game. On their first drive, Sam Ehlinger rolls out, finds Roschon Johnson on the wheel route for a 25-yard touchdown. Very next possession, Ehlinger drops back and takes a deep shot over the middle. That's the freshman Jake Smith going all the way to the house, 53 yards on the score. Very next possession, second quarter, Keontae Ingram is able to get loose and find pay dirt. 26 yards on that run, and Texas was clicking on all cylinders in the first half. Fourth possession, this is Jake Smith again, this time from 12 yards out. Texas with touchdowns on their first 4 drives, and then before halftime, Cameron Dicker from 57 yards. Houston, we have liftoff. That's a new career long for the Texas kicker. Longhorns led it 31-0 at the break. They added on here in the third quarter with Keontae Ingram's second touchdown. Fourth quarter, the Rice Owls finally able to break up the shutout, making it 38-6. But then Texas was able to put an exclamation point on this game. Deshaun Jamison takes a kickoff 98 yards all the way into the end zone. Texas takes care of business in Houston, knocks off Rice 48-13.
Matt Marinchak has more on the game from the sidelines of NRG Stadium in Houston.
After a heartbreaking loss to LSU, the number 12 ranked Texas Longhorns took on the winless Rice Owls in their first road game of the season. Coach Herman praised the team for looking past the LSU loss and for focusing on going 1-0 against Rice.
Proud of our team. Certainly the way that they started, they did what we asked them to do all week, which was to put last week behind them. And we said all week that you don't prove to yourself that you're an elite team by winning every top 10 matchup that you face.
Absolutely, just amazed at how well we worked this week and how well we executed during game time. I mean, to be able to bounce back from what happened last week and just wipe the plate and go out and do what we need to do was a big step for us.
Players like Keontae Ingram were able to have a bounce-back game after a mediocre performance against LSU.
Because they know what I can do. Yeah. They trust in me. They see what I can do. Right. We practice every single day. Right. And, one thing they told me not to beat myself up too much because that's what I do. That's just me. Yeah. That's how I am about the game because I care about the game so much.
Keontae definitely bounced back. I think it was important for him to have a game like this.
After blowing out Rice, Texas hopes to continue their momentum next week against Oklahoma State, a team that has beat the Longhorns for the past 4 years.
Like you said, they won 4 straight, so that means I haven't beat them yet, so I'm ecstatic. I can't wait to watch them run out. I'm ready to go.
From NRG Stadium, I'm Matt Marinchak, TSTV Sports.
Joined now by our football analysts, Fitch and Zach Leff. And guys, Texas had some tough questions to answer after last week's loss to LSU, but this week they bounced back nicely. So what are some key areas where you guys saw improvement from Texas against Rice?
Well, the interesting thing is when you look at the stats, they're actually not too dissimilar from the LSU game the week before. The only difference, playing a slightly or significantly worse team in Rice. However, what I want to focus on specifically was the defense. Defense definitely improved. You go from giving up 45 points against LSU to 13 against Rice. It felt like they did a better job of forcing pressure. Tom Stewart was under pressure all day. They only had 3 sacks, but the fact that he was under pressure, a lot of incompletions, so that was good. And the secondary really stepped up, especially after how poorly they played against LSU last week.
Yeah, those were all great points. I mean, when it comes to improvements, I saw improvements in the running game. Ultimately, you saw Keontae Ingram get involved more. It was a big deal for Keontae Ingram this game, a confidence booster, some would say, because when it came to Keontae Ingram, he struggled against LSU. And this game, he scored 2 touchdowns. You saw Roschon Johnson and him split carries. Roschon Johnson had 1 touchdown. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, they're going to need this running game when it comes to the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, that running game certainly looked a lot better. Now, we've seen this Texas team 3 times now already. Putting together everything you guys have seen thus far in those first 3 games, what do you think are the biggest strengths of this year's Longhorn squad?
I mean, we're going to skip from the defensive side. We're starting out right now, though, with Sam Ehlinger. I mean, the QB1 right there. Sam Ehlinger, he's a great quarterback overall. He's has 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Only Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts are the only 2 quarterbacks that have those similar stats to them right now. And he's proven a lot of people wrong. I mean, people thought he was a runner to start the year, only could run, and he's thrown 11 touchdowns, like I said. He's only had 1 rushing touchdown, so he's clearly a complete quarterback and a Heisman candidate to watch out for as the year goes on in Big 12 play.
Who I've been impressed by, the guys that Sam Ehlinger's throwing to, all the wide receivers so deep at that position from top to bottom, starting off with Devin Duvernay is picked up right where Lil Jordan Humphrey left off last year. He has 27 receptions for 269 yards through 3 games. He's playing incredible. Then you have Malcolm X, Brennan Eagles, who have played well, and Epps stepped up with Colin Johnson being injured last week. And then how about Jake Smith? We might as well call him Jake Shipley at this point. Brandon Jones called him White Lightning after the game. Through 3 games, the true freshman, 11 receptions, 126 yards. This wide receiver core is incredible. Do not be surprised if the wide receiver coach, Drew Maringer, is getting looks for offensive coordinator after the season.
Yeah, and those looks would be well-deserved. That receiving core has been something to watch. Now, this week's AP poll came out yesterday, and Texas is ranked 12th for the 2nd consecutive week. Where do you two stand on this current ranking, and where do you think Texas will end up later on down the road?
Well, where I stand on the current ranking is, it doesn't matter that much right now. We're just through week 3, but as far as the team is concerned, I think they're pretty happy to be at 12. It's a comfortable spot. It still shows some respect. They're the highest one-loss team in the rankings, but you're not being overhyped. You're not being pushed up and have the pressure of being a top 10 team. Now, do I think that Texas is better than the teams ahead of them like Michigan, Utah, Florida? Sure, but who cares? Again, the season's going to play out. We're going to see what happens down the stretch. But as far as what's concerned the rest of the season, I think Texas has to look at it this way. They win out, which probably includes 2 wins against OU, assuming Red River rivalry, and probably the Big 12 championship game. That's 2 quality wins, quality loss against LSU week 2. They are contending for the college football playoff if they can win out.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said there, Thomas. I mean, when it comes to a one-loss team, at 12, it's very respectable, especially early on. It shows that the AP committee and the AP poll truly believes that Texas is one of the top teams in the country, even though losing to an LSU. And ultimately, there are teams, maybe like a Michigan, a Florida, a Utah, who Texas is better, might be better than. But for right now, being a one-loss team, I think it's very fair. And when it comes to the Big 12 this year, you're going to realistically have to win out to have a chance at a college football playoff. But like Thomas said, Oklahoma, those are the to watch out for if Texas Longhorns are able to make it to the Big 12 championship on top of the Red River rivalry.
Thomas Fitch, Zach Leff, thank you both for your thoughts. And viewers, look out for these guys on College Crossfire and the 1-0 Sports Show later on in the week on TSTV. When we come back, we'll discuss the unpredictable start of Texas soccer's 2019 campaign and tell you what we expect from them the rest of the way. Stick around. Welcome back to College Press Box. The Texas soccer team lost 4-0 this Sunday at home against Monmouth. This was the most lopsided defeat the Longhorns have suffered in 2019, and it came against a Monmouth team that had managed just 1 goal in their previous 5 matches. The loss put an end to Texas's 3-game winning streak, as well as their perfect record at home. For more on the up-and-down start to Texas soccer season, Madison is with Clark Dalton.
Thanks, Jake. Clark Dalton joins us now to dig deeper into this Texas soccer team. With Texas being 4-3 in pre-conference play, is this year's team consistent or inconsistent?
They haven't shown steadfast stability, but it's too early to call them inconsistent. And the reason I say that is they're still looking for that synergy to operate more smoothly. Texas currently ranked 61st in goals per game. And the reason for this is they lost senior Alexa Adams, who brought a nice balance of unselfishness and playmaking ability. And this has thrust younger players into a role that's very hard to fill. And when you have players who are a little bit inexperienced, it makes it harder to compete on an elite basis. This is evidenced in Texas's home record, where they play very well at 3-1, and their road losses where they've struggled against Colorado and Denver.
And with Monmouth shutting out Texas 4-0, what prevented the Longhorns from putting up a point against Monmouth?
They didn't put the ball in the net. I'm not saying that to be sarcastic or smart, but Texas had just as many shots as Monmouth did, 12-11. So they need to kick with more precision if they want goals. Additionally, two-time All-American Sierra Henson was hurt, and she's leading the team with assists right now at 4 assists. So when you take her out of the lineup, you don't have that playmaking ability. And Monmouth scored the first 3 goals in 25 minutes, so that spurned all of the momentum.
Yes, and with Big 12 play approaching next week, what are your predictions for the success of this year's team?
I think this year is actually going to be the opposite of last year. In 2018, Texas got off to that really strong start, and then they started to cool down towards the tail end of the season. This year, it's going to be the opposite, where they heat up towards the end of the season. I think they have all the talent to make the NCAA tournament, and I think this team's going to finish top 3 in the Big 12, and I still think they can win the conference because the only 2 teams that are in the top 25, TCU and Oklahoma State, are coming to Austin.
Thanks, Clark. Next up for Texas soccer is a home game Thursday against Providence. But next up for us here on College Press Box, Daniel Shih brings us some MLB coverage. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to College Press Box, and thanks for sticking with us. The race to October is heating up in mid-September for the MLB. Daniel Shih brings us some Unhooked on baseball.
Well, thanks, Jake. Well, about half the league is already out of contention, but the rest are trying hard to be one of the 10 teams to make the playoffs this year. In the American League, the Yankees look very strong, and the Twins surprised everybody in the AL Central. Houston looks to return to glory, and a handful of teams are still battling for the 2 wild cards. On the other side of the league, Atlanta already secured a playoff berth. The Nationals and the Phillies are still in the race, and the top 3 teams in the NL Central are only 3 games apart. The Dodgers never looked back in NL West after a hot start, but LA is still pursuing the best record in the league to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. They played the Mets on Sunday Night Baseball yesterday, and New York is just trying to stay in the playoff contention after cooling off in early September. So it's an important game for both teams. Let's take a look at the highlights. We're going to start with Brendan Nip, maybe 2 runs, let's see. Hit it all the way to the right field. It's a fair ball. Cody Bellinger throws it to the cutoff man. First one already scored. Let's see if the play is safe. Yes, he is safe, and the Mets are up 2-0 on the bottom of the second. Zach Wheeler dueling with Cody Bellinger. He strikes him out on the top of the 6th. Mets are still up 2-1, and things look good for a bit until Chris Taylor says no. He hits the ball all the way to the wall. The Mets tries to scramble for it, but the runner was on 3rd, so he scores easily, and the game's all tied up. Top of the 9th, Julio Lugo punches all the way to the middle, and the Dodgers will score the leading run, or the go-ahead run, and let's see if the Mets have one more left in them. Maeda says goodbye. Dodgers win 3-2 on Sunday Night Baseball, and with this, the Mets are 4 games behind the second wild card. Things don't look good at Queens right now. Next up, we're going to go international. Nope, we're not going to Toronto. We're going to South Korea for the WBSC U18 Baseball World Cup. Chinese Taipei faced the USA in the final of the U18 World Cup, and the US looks to win their 5th consecutive title featuring 6 of the top 15 high school MLB prospects, while Chinese Taipei looks to win the cup for the first time since 2010. Let's take a look at the highlights. Top of the 5th, runner on 3rd, leans away, hits the ball just over the second baseman, and that will score a run for Chinese Taipei. Taipei leads 1-0. Bottom of the 6th, Robert Hassel, the 14th best prospect, hits the ball all the way to the left field, and will it drop extra bases? Nope. Luo Weijie says no, he slides. Look at that extension, by the way. Just look at that. Slides, extends, catches the ball, and Robert Hassel says, well, that's a good catch. I can't do anything about it. The pitcher is psyched. Top 8th, man on 1st and 2nd. Same man, Luo Weijie, hits the ball through the middle, and Chinese Taipei will score their 2nd run. Ball goes to 3rd. He's safe there, and Chinese Taipei goes their lead. He's so happy right there, Luo Weijie. He's a brilliant kid. Bottom 9th, USA man on 1st and 2nd. Will they finish the game? Not quite, but the second baseman kind of bobbles it. They score their 1st run of the game. The lead is cut to half, and Chinese Taipei just seems to lost it, but not quite. The U.S. hits the ball all the way to the right field, caught by the right fielder for Chinese Taipei, and they will win 3-2 for the first time since 2010. Look at that, Coach. The coach is happy, the players are happy. And you might ask, why am I showing you this non-professional baseball competition all the way in South Korea? Nobody cares. It doesn't mean much, but not quite. Not quite for us and not quite for Taiwanese people. This is the reaction of the commentator from Videoland when they live broadcasted the game. Videoland, by the way, is the ESPN of Taiwan. Let's just see how he reacted.
右半边方向的飞球，这个金手套，嗨，世界冠军，中华队来了 ，World Champion， 台湾 #1。
And this is how the team was greeted at the airport when they came back the day after the final. The trophy, the flag, it's loud in there, all the media. I mean, sometimes when you don't have the best tech industry in the world, and you don't have the largest economy in the world, and when you're on the front lines in a global power struggle between two major superpowers, sometimes a U18 World Championship is just good enough. And it's good enough to unite us. It's good enough to say we're good at something. And most importantly, it makes us proud of who we are. And that's why I'm wearing this hat. This hat is too big for my head, too small for my head, but I'm still wearing it on TV because I can't lie, I teared up a bit when I saw the final. It made me proud of being a Taiwanese and showed us that we can be good at something. And so that's it for today's Unhooked. Let's hand it back to Jake.
Thank you, Daniel. When we come back, we'll check out Jocelyn Maldonado's Argentina-Mexico feature, so stick around. This past Tuesday, San Antonio was treated to an international friendly in men's soccer between Argentina and Mexico. TSTV Sports' Jocelyn Maldonado was there to bring you the coverage.
Después de la victoria en Nueva Jersey contra los Estados Unidos, seguía un fuerte partido para México contra el equipo albiceleste de Argentina. Todos los medios dudaban que Argentina traía un equipo fuerte porque faltaban jugadores reconocidos como Messi, Agüero y Di María. Y del otro lado, México traía una convocatoria que incluía grandes reconocidos como el Chucky Lozano y Memo Ochoa. Además, el argentino técnico de México tenía que enfrentar a su propio país, un país que es considerado uno de los mejores equipos en fútbol. En los primeros 15 minutos México salió confiado y le estaba jugando el tú por tú a Argentina. Pero y luego México causó un error y luego otro y luego otro. Argentina acabó goleando al equipo de México y simplemente México no reaccionó en la cancha. El Tata Martino habló sobre la calidad del equipo de México, asegurando que México todavía tiene mucho trabajo para mejorar.
Yo no creo que sea nuestra realidad. Tampoco creo que tener 11 partidos sin perder sea nuestra realidad. De los clase A es el segundo partido que jugamos, el primero fue con Chile. Y la diferencia sustancial entre Chile y Argentina es que nosotros esta noche cometimos errores sobre los cuales pensábamos que Argentina nos podía hacer daño.
Cierta camorra al cuarto oficial en San Antonio, en Texas, en amistoso internacional, México 0, Argentina 4. La pausa.
Hoy vi a un México muy desequilibrado y del otro lado un equipo de Argentina nuevo y fresco que en verdad le cayó la boca a toda la gente. Para mí, México debe de fortalecer su equipo y encontrar esa pasión de representar a tu país, porque si no, siempre van a ser humillados por estos gran equipos que en verdad siempre se merecen el gran respeto. Simple y sencillamente, México tiene que ser humilde y venir con todas las ganas de jugar. Gracias, eso es todo. Jocelyn Maldonado de TSTV Deportes.
This past weekend, Texas volleyball took 2 wins home from Kansas. The Longhorns first beat BYU 3-1 on Friday with Logan Eggleston leading the team in kills with 25. Texas then shut out Wichita State 3-0 on Saturday through the leadership of Logan Eggleston once again and Micaiah White. Texas's next game is against Rice on Wednesday in Houston.
The Texas men's and women's cross-country teams took home the Texas Invitational title in Round Rock on Friday. In the women's 15-kilometer race, the Longhorns took home the top 15 positions, and senior Destiny Collins won her second race of the season. The men's team dominated as well by finishing in the top 9 positions of their 5-kilometer race. Both teams are back in action on September 27th for the Concordia Cross Country Classic in Round Rock. Looking ahead, it's another busy week for Texas athletics, so let's check out this week in Longhorn sports. On Wednesday, the number 3 ranked volleyball team goes to Houston to take on Rice. That's not the only in-state foe that volleyball faces this week, though, as Friday night, Texas A&M comes to Gregory Gymnasium to take on the Horns. Then, Saturday night, Texas football has a primetime showdown against Oklahoma State, and Sunday afternoon, Texas soccer has a home match against Grambling State to wrap up their final week of non-conference play.
And that wraps up our show for tonight. From all of us here in the studio and everyone in Master Control, thank you for joining us on your Monday night. Be sure to tune in to College Crossfire on Wednesday night for the best sports debate on the 40 acres. Until then, I'm Madison Hager alongside Jake Herman. Have a great night.